Well, good morning. And thanks for coming to this session. I'm going to be talking about the brand new XenDesktop 7.x PowerShell script. It works with all versions of XenDesktop 7, including the next version that's already in testing that I've been given access to. If you have any questions as I'm going along discussing what the script actually documents, just raise your hand. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions as we go along. So, the only thing about me that you need to know is I am now in my 38th year in IT, which is longer than most of you in this room have been alive. So respect your elders here. So if you misbehave, I will spank you with my 150 baud modem phone coupler. All right, on to the script. I started work on this script on Sunday, October 20th, 2013 in secret with Jory and Gibson. The reason I did it in secret is because I had started work in March of 2013 on the XenDesktop 5 script and got absolutely nowhere with it. The reason being is both XenDesktop 5, XenDesktop 7, the PowerShell stuff, I'm glad they've got it, and there's some nice features to it, but it's a big heaping pile of crap. Most of it is not documented. What is documented is really not that good, and what's not documented, they will not add to the documentation. And even when I have found errors in what is documented, Citrix refuses to fix it. Because the documentation that you see in eDocs for all the PowerShell commandlets is actually stored in the source code for the product. It's actually programmers' comments that they then use something called OCaml to extract it all and format it into the documentation you see in eDocs. So any errors or any omissions can't be fixed without actually changing the source code for the product. So I really didn't think we were going to get anywhere, but I was able to get a little bit work done on it, so I actually announced the script at E2E Rome. And right now, the current version of the script is 22,344 friggin' lines of painful PowerShell.
But we love you for it, Carl.
Well, thank you very much. That's a lot of typing. Just in my time, I have over 800 hours invested in just this script. I have over 150 testers. I have no idea how much time most of them spent, because there were a couple of testers that went through this thing with a fine-tooth comb and were able to find things that we needed to add or needed to correct. You're going to get typos when you type in 22,000 lines of PowerShell. You're going to have typos, and so they find typos and stuff like that. Now, one of the reasons that this has now taken 20 months, matter of fact, see, today's the 14th, so 6 days from now will be the 21st month that I would have been working on this script. And as of yesterday, during the Basses and Mix session on the XenDesktop Power Management, I realized, oops, there's some things I got to add to the script. So as soon as I get back home, I'll add the missing power management stuff into the script. So by the time the script is actually at version 1.1, it will be 21 months that I have been working on this script. Part of the reason is, well, a lot of this stuff is not documented by Citrix. Back in late February, finally, the PM for XenDesktop and XenApp finally started responding to my emails. And I'm a CTP. I'm supposed to have access to these people. I couldn't get Citrix to answer my emails for 16 friggin' months. Yeah. Finally, we got a real hardcore advocate for the CTPs, Rachel Berry. Rachel Berry is in the UK, where the XenApp XenDesktop team is. And she must have beat somebody over the head, because all of a sudden in March, my email started getting answered. And I would say, how do you find this? And they would respond, how do you do this? And they would respond. So in March, man, we really started making progress on the script. Started making so much progress, it pissed some of the testers off, and I lost like almost 30 testers in 1 week because they couldn't keep up with all the updates that were coming out, and they wanted out. And then in the last month or so, we've gotten back more testers, so we're back over 150 testers. So the script is done. Well, was done until yesterday. Okay, so what all does the script do? Like all my scripts, I start off with some kind of management console. So obviously for, I'm just going to call it XenDesktop. It's XenApp, XenDesktop, it's just XenDesktop. So I actually start off in Studio and I actually say, okay, I'm going to document everything that's in every single one of these nodes. Now I started off with the easy stuff. I started off with configuration, went to administrators, controllers, got bogged down in hosting, so I went to licensing, got bogged down in licensing, but I wanted to get licensing done before E to E roam, so it took me 6 hours just to do this one node, figuring it out, and then went through all this stuff. So, starting off at the top node, machine catalogs. Now, just to do this, my poor little lab, I wanted to create a machine, every possible machine catalog. So I created a physical computer, I created a remote PC, I created one of every possible machine catalog for PVS and one of every possible machine catalog for MCS. That was, I think, 19 machine catalogs in total. You don't see 19 up there because my lab just couldn't, I would take all the delivery groups out of maintenance mode and come back 8 hours later and all the VMs and all the desktops had finally finished powering on and registering. It put that much strain on my little lab. So I had to remove all the PVS stuff. So we go through and I give you all the stuff for the machine catalogs, and then we go through and give you on the bottom half of the screen, we go through and give you all the details, all the machines, and then the administrators. Now the administrators was an absolute pain in the butt because it's not documented anywhere by Citrix how to get that information. Matter of fact, shortly, let's see, so 2013, so Summit 2014, I got the then PM of XenDesktop and just badgered him. And he finally gave me a resource to help me just on this one issue. That guy works at Citrix, had access to the developers, had access to the source code, and it took him 3 solid weeks to figure out how to get the first type of administrator. And my thing is, how is someone like me, how are people like us supposed to find that stuff when people who have access to the source code can't figure it out? It's all in there. We figured it out. It's in the script. Now, some of them, like remote PC, will have 4 tabs. And so we actually go and do all, for each of the catalog types, we give you all the information for all of the tabs that are in the bottom half of the screen. Delivery groups, it was the same thing. I had to create one of every possible type of delivery group so I could make sure that I got everything documented, because if you've ever looked at the property for a delivery group, if you've got different types of delivery groups like random, static, PVD, remote PC, a desktop OS that also does desktop and apps, server OSs that do just desktop or desktops and apps, all of them have different properties. And none of them are consistent. Some of them have the same information, but they have different tab names. And some of them, like remote PC, it's like they got some programmer somewhere that went off and did his own thing, and he labeled all of his stuff completely different than all the other delivery groups. So I had to make a decision. I treated remote PC the same as I do all the other delivery groups. And I actually talked to the PM for XenDesktop. He spent an hour and a half on a go-to meeting with me after I'd gotten most of the script finished, and I actually walked through all the issues and discrepancies I found in Studio, and he was just like, oh, well, I can tell you those were not intentional decisions. I will get all that stuff fixed. So whether it's fixed in the next version or not, I do not know. So for your delivery group, we also do the same thing. For all the different types of delivery groups, for all the different tabs that are available down in the bottom half of the screen, we get you all the various types of information. And for delivery groups, the administrators also not documented how to retrieve that. So it was just sitting there for a couple of hours, just running commandlets, trying to figure out what are all the possible things that I have to do to get that based on what that one guy did for the first one. Then I had to figure out, well, how does that apply to this type? How does that apply to this type? And it was just literally, you just spent hours just running commandlets, looking for the differences between them, trying to figure it out. And then some of them you can see, like the previous one had 5, this one has 4 tabs. And remote PC, you notice that all the others are machine catalogs. Remote PC, they changed it to catalogs. Now all the others, when you're looking, like here, like for this delivery group, when we look at the machine catalogs, the only machine catalog you will see in there are the 1 or more machine catalogs that actually serve machines up to this delivery group. For remote PC, nah, the dude listed every delivery group, and then just in the details for the delivery group that actually, for the catalog that has the remote PC machines, he actually has that information there, but he listed every possible delivery group. So I said, screw that, I'm going to treat that like all the others, because I didn't want to have to, have separate code for all of that. Applications. We give you all the applications, whether they come from servers or whether they come from desktops. Now the thing that puzzled me was this location column. I couldn't find anything about location. So I actually emailed one of the contacts on the XenDesktop team and said, where do you get that location, the master image? Where does it come from? I don't know. Let me see. He goes off 3 days later. I have no idea. I can't find it. I don't know where that comes from. And so I just put in there, okay, I just hard-coded master image. Because if they can't tell me how to get it, and everything I had said master image, I just hard-coded master image. One of the testers, actually, this guy was so good. He actually created a vSphere environment, a XenServer environment, and a Hyper-V environment to test the script. And he actually created the same thing. All the machine catalogs, all the delivery groups, but he also created an AppV infrastructure to put in here, because I didn't have AppV. And he says, well, when I look at the applications in Studio, some of them say AppV. When I run your script, all of them say master image. I was like, oh. So we did a go-to meeting. He actually gave me an hour and a half of his time on his lab equipment. And we actually went and found out that for the application, when you say get broker application and get the name, there's a property called metadata. And if anything is in metadata, it's an AppV app. Because when you look at the metadata, it actually gives you the name of the AppV server and the package and all the stuff you need for AppV. And I was like, oh. So we went and looked on his, okay, All the applications that are not AtV have nothing in that property. All the applications he posed in AtV all have something in metadata. Okay, now we got it. Now I can go through, if something is in the metadata property, the location is AtV, otherwise it's master image. Now, technically, you can actually run an application that's not in the master image. You can actually say, and I tested this in my lab, okay, I'm going to run an application from my NAS. And you can do that. You know, I can run PuTTY from my NAS. It's not in the master image, but Citrix still reports it as master image because technically they support it, but inside the code, they don't support it. So, all right. So we also go through and give you all the details, all the sessions, and again, all the undocumented process of how to get the administrators. And then also for delivery groups and applications, there are some things like power management that you can set via PowerShell that you cannot set via the GUI. For instance, for applications and delivery groups, you can actually, in the GUI, all you can say is, these users have access to this. And for some applications, you can say, okay, you're going to get everything, all the users come from the delivery group. Some of the delivery groups allow you to say limit visibility, where you can say, well, yeah, for the delivery group, we'll get all the users based on the delivery group, but for this application, we just want these users to have access. So we document all of that. The other thing you can do in PowerShell that you can't do in the GUI is you can actually exclude users, which you can't see in the GUI. And if you go and run PowerShell and say exclude these users or these groups or whatever, when you then go into Studio and bring up the properties for that delivery group or that application, you'll get a warning that, hey, you've altered this via PowerShell. So you can't do anything in the GUI with it now. So now you give a help desk person trying to troubleshoot why someone can't access an application or a desktop, and all they get this thing that says, sorry, it's been set via PowerShell. You actually going to give your help desk people access to PowerShell to actually determine, you know, because if they can run it, they can change it and screw it up. So we document all of that in the script. When you double click a catalog or a delivery group, it will then take you and then show you all the desktop server machines and sessions. We give you all that information. Also, so anything you can double click, we give you that information. Here, you can also right click and select what details do you want to see. And there's a lot of details. The script documents every single one of those. Now, in the help text for the script, I tell you, you can, if you choose machine catalog details, you're going to get a long report, and it's going to take a long time to generate, because getting all that, if you've got thousands of desktops or thousands of machines, and all this information takes up like a page and a half, and you're in an environment that has like 3,000 machines, you just got 4,500 pages of output just from this, not counting all the other stuff. And then if you do delivery group details and machine catalog details, you now got 9,000 pages. Because a machine catalog can only serve one type of machine. A delivery group can actually be made up of machines from multiple delivery groups. So you got to choose which one you want the details for. I would not do both, because the script will take an enormously long time to run, and you will get a super long report. Policies. I was so excited when at Synergy 2014 I heard that XenDesktop 5 and 7 use the same policy PowerShell stuff that XenApp 6 and 6.5 does. Sweet. Couldn't get it to work. So I spent 3 weeks with the guy who did the session at Synergy, exchanging emails. He couldn't get it to work. His thing was, Well, it works in Scout. And it's like, okay. So what I found out was that there's a bug actually in the citrus.grouppolicy.common PowerShell snap-in that you load. It doesn't create the PowerShell drive for the local GPO or local farm GPO. It doesn't create it. And that's what the module looks for. So I had to go and change my code to add that in. So Scout must obviously work around that. Supposedly that's a bug that's going to be fixed. Hadn't been fixed yet. So we then go through and give you all the settings. So what did I have to do? I had to create a policy with every possible computer setting and a policy with every possible user setting. What did that entail? There are 115 computer policies. There are 149 user policies. There are 264 policies that had to document, and that took over 12,000 lines of PowerShell. You're welcome. Then we had to go and do all of the filters. Now, I just noticed this morning when I was reviewing this. I'm using the old XenApp 6.6.5 name of filters. I didn't realize that until just now that it's actually assigned to in XenDesktop 7. It's not filters. So I got to go change the title for that in the script. So I'll get that changed next week. And I had to do the same thing. I had to create every possible type of filter, both allow and deny, to make sure that everything possible was documented. Logging. Do all your historical logging, configuration logging. One thing that a tester asked me for, and I didn't know was possible, but actually is possible, was can I go in there and say, hey, for June 8th, 2015, for the minute of 8:58, can you give me just the logging details for that? And I figured out how to do that, and it's documented in the help text, because Citrix didn't even know how to do that. So it took about an hour to figure it out and work it out. And what's really weird, if you run the script from a PowerShell session, that will work. If you actually say, I want it on 6/8/2015 at, 0858:00 to 0858:59, because you can't do seconds. Seconds are either 00 or 59. And if you run that in the PowerShell session, it works. If you try to run it from ISE, ISE will say, I can't convert that to a date time. So the script, if you try to narrow it down by even an hour, it won't work if you run the script in ISE. Site setting, that's pretty simple, except for it really confuses people when they have storefront configured and they don't see anything for the default storefront address. You only get default storefront address if storefront's actually installed on the controller, which no one in the right mind does unless it's for lab or a POC. Product support. This was a doozy. When this was added in 7.6, well, when I was doing the XenDesktop 5 script, in order to find out, PVD was only supported starting with XenDesktop 5.6. So if someone was running the script, say with XenDesktop 5.0 Service Pack 1, there was no need to do all the PVD output. So I just said, okay, if we're version 5.6, we'll do that. Well, Citrus came back and said, don't use version numbers because version numbers are unreliable. What you get from Get Broker Controller is not the actual marketing version number. So what I found out was XenDesktop 5.0 is version 5.0, 5.0 Service Pack 1 is version 5.1, XenDesktop 5.5 is XenDesktop 5.1, and 5.6 is 5.6. But when you look in the console, it says 5.0 Service Pack 1 is 5.1, 5.5 is 5.5. Okay, if Get Broker Controller is returning 5.1 for 5.5, how do I get 5.5? Oh, the only way to get the accurate version number is you gotta go to the registry. Okay, so I had to use the registry. When I came to this, oh, okay, I'll just get the version number and use for this, but that didn't work. And so what they said, for XenDesktop 7, don't use the version number. You have to use get asterisk added service capability. So get broker added service capability, hype added service capability in order to get all the extra features. And when you do that, you'll actually see things like personal vDisk and application launching, application pre-launch, stuff like that you're using a version that actually supports that. Guess what's not in added service capability? That. Oh, we decided not to do that, we decided to do something else. You have to look for a registered service. What registered service? Oh, it's the analytics service. Where is that documented? Oh, we didn't document that. Okay, so got that figured out. Administrators. This part of the administrators is actually easy. Just get all the administrators, get all the scopes, get all the roles. That's actually easy. What is impossible, and I've yet to figure out how to get this, is like if I have this, a custom role that I have created, and I've given that role specific permissions, I've yet to figure out how to retrieve that. I've been able to, for machine catalogs and delivery groups and even hosting inside there, say what administrators have access to that hosting resource or that delivery group or that machine catalog, but to say that role, what permissions does it have, you have to figure out. Citrix can't even tell me how to do it. Controllers, that's easy. Hosting was a bitch. Because everything else is PowerShell commandlets. Hosting is 2 PS drives and a commandlet. So you have to use a PS drive, get a whole bunch of information from the PS drive. Once you've gotten that information, then you loop through all that information, and when you've got it, you then take some of that information and then run a commandlet to get the rest of the hypervisor information. Once you have the result of that, you loop through all of it, going through a second PS drive, looping through all of that, and when you got all that done, you then merge all that together, and the intersection is then what you get for that one connection. Pain in the butt. And then we also do the administrators, and how to do that is also not documented. And then if you double click a hosting connection, it will then give you all the desktop OS machines, server OS machines, and all the sessions. And we give you all of that along with all the administrators. Licensing, not documented at all. In XenDesktop 5, all you had to say was get LIC inventory and return all your licenses. And then you just loop through it looking for the ones that have XenDesktop. Piece of cake. For this, If you ran that, it would just come up and say, I can't connect to the server. Oh, you want an admin address. Okay, that must be the controller. No, it's not the controller. Oh, it must be my license server. Yes, the license server, but in a specially formatted way. Oh, how do I get that? Oh, you got to run this commandlet to get the license server address. You then take that license server address, pass it through another license commandlet to get the certificate hash for the server so you can make a secure connection. You take the license server address and the certificate hash, pass it to get LIC inventory, and now you can get all your inventory stuff. And none of that's documented. It took me 6 hours to reverse engineer that. Storefront is just basic stuff, basic listing of the storefront servers and the delivery groups associated with this storefront server and the administrators. And of course, wouldn't you know, the administrators for storefront are different than all the other administrators. All the other administrators can have scopes or delivery groups, machine catalogs, hosting. You can have scopes where you can say, you know, this administrator only has these permissions for this delivery group or this catalog or this application, whatever. For storefront, you're just an administrator. You have full access to it. So it's a non-scopable object in XenDesktop. So you have to handle that differently when you're retrieving the administrators. All right, some sample reports. Hopefully these will show up well on here. All right, this is just your typical Word. You've got your cover page up here. So I'll get this up here. You got your typical cover page and your table of contents, and then we go through, and there's your machine catalog with all the information on the machine catalog, and then we also give you some details on that machine catalog. And basically the same thing for delivery groups. There's your delivery group, and then we also give you some details, and then there's all the machine catalogs and administrators associated with the delivery group. And then for applications, we will then go through, and you'll see that this is the only one I had. Actually, what's really weird, I don't have that V, but I could use PowerShell to configure this application as an app V app, even though I don't have that V anywhere. So, using calculator. So we give you all the details, we give you all the sessions, we give you all the administrators, and then let me go down to my Excel. And so you can see we give you all the session information for all the multiple sessions accessing Excel, and then all the administrators. And then the policies. Some of the testers were from extremely large organizations. And so by default, the script just went out there and got all your site policies, and it looked in sysvol for all your Active Directory, all your Citrix Active Directory based policies. Well, one guy was in an organization that they had over 100,000 group policies, Active Directory based group policies. So when the script actually hit that part where we were looking through an enormous sysvol tree trying to find the files that associate a folder tree in sysvol with a Citrix-based policy. So what we did is we actually then added a parameter, no AD policies. So we just completely skipped, because he was just like, we don't have any AD based Citrix policies, so there's no need to go out there and check it. And then for some people, they have so many Citrix policies. We're talking over 2,000 Citrix policies that it takes forever to run the report. So what I did is I also added a parameter that says no policies, just skip policies. Don't, nothing. So even if you say, give me all the policies, but then you also say no policies, no policy rules. You get absolutely no policies. Mainly because it was taking so long to run the script when you have that many policies, and also the output was huge when you have that many policies. So we gave away, or I gave them a way to skip all AD policy processing and all policy processing. So then when we come down here, and well, let's see, so there's all the filters, of course, which is now going to be renamed to assigned to. So I give everything, all the allows, all the denies, and then all the policy settings. Now what really irked me, when Citrix added these new policies like this up here, they actually put line breaks in there, which really screwed up my table formatting. Because I'm just using a function, I just pass the stuff to a function, and it really screwed the stuff up. So I actually have to do some processing in there where I'm actually looking for that kind of stuff, and just say, no, we're just going to put this, in here, because originally timestamp would be over here, and this please save your work stuff would be over in here, because it was taking the line break and actually putting it over there. So that wasn't what I wanted, so I had to work around some of this stuff. So I had to create a policy with every single one of those settings, and then also for the user, create something that had something in there. And then for every policy setting, if you had subsettings, like the Adobe Flash, where you could render stuff on client, render stuff on server, or block. You know, I had to create every single one of those subsettings so that I can make sure that every possible thing was documented. And then there's the logging, and then the configuration. Now the data stores, it now handles properly whether you're on SQL Express or everything's in one database on SQL Server, or whether you're using SQL mirroring, SQL clustering, or always on availability groups. All of those conditions are properly handled and all the data is correct in the report. And then all the administrators with the scopes and the roles, controllers, hosting, and then we then go through and then show you all your advanced settings, administrators, all the desktop, all the servers, and I could not figure out how to get the session information for a hosting connection. So I'm still trying to figure that out, and I'll add that as soon as I get that figured out, since Citrix can't tell me how to do it. And then there's all the licensing, storefront, and then @V, which is not configured for this site. And then the PDF.
I'm sorry, they're not looking at your session. The screens are completely wrong. And no one says anything.
And then the PDF is just nothing more than the Word document saved as PDF. And then by popular demand, also text, because some people wanted text output. So all the text is there, kind of nicely formatted. Obviously, you don't have fonts. You don't have, page breaks or anything like that. And then finally, the most requested feature that's being added to all the new scripts, HTML output. Now, the thing with the XenDesktop 5, the XenDesktop 7 script, you do not have to run these on a controller. Now with Xen App 6.5, they enabled remoting for everything except the policies. The policies for XenDesktop 7, they went in and added remoting. And why they didn't back that into Xen App 6.5, Xen App 6, I have no idea, since it's exactly the same module. You can't run that module in Xen App 6.5 remotely because it's looking for the broker service running on the controller. So with the text and the HTML output, you could run this directly on a controller if you wanted to, because there's no dependencies except for the PowerShell stuff, which is automatically on a controller. In my little lab, generating this report with all the details that I gave, the Word and PDF took about 15 to 17 minutes. The text took 3 seconds. HTML took 7 seconds. So you can see where the slowness comes in, and the slowness comes in from having to rely on Word and populating all those Word tables. My super uber duper genius friend Ian Brighton back there is working on a module to completely remove the dependency from Word. We can still generate Word documents, but you don't even have to have Word installed. So he's working on that, and hopefully later this year we'll be able to replace all the Word dependency and completely remove it. So with the HTML, we've got all the nice formatting and all the tables and all the data and everything is all there. Jake Rutsky, who did the VMware script. Let's see, Ken Abram, who's now with the place where John Smith works. That company. So Ken Abram supplied the original functions to generate all the HTML output and tables, but the problem is you could have the exact same data in 2 different tables, and the tables would be different widths and the columns would be different widths. So when you generated all the output and you started scrolling through, you would get seasick. Yeah, I know, my time's up. Yeah. Leave me alone. Okay. So then Jake Rutsky went in and modified that HTML code so that we could actually specify a table width and column width. So now we can actually, as you can see, all the tables of the same type can now actually line up, and as you scroll through this, you don't actually get seasick anymore. So thank you, Jake, for all that work, and I'm really looking forward to Ian's new functionality that he's going to have. Hopefully later this year we'll be able to start implementing that. All right, any questions on this script? Let me. Yeah, I know my time's up. Where to get the script, and just go to my site. There's the article about it, and you can just go to carlwebster.com/downloads and get it. The script is live. And then also want to mention Shane Kleiner, fellow CTP, started the GoFundMe thing for me to hopefully get people to donate for the scripts, because some of the largest consultancies in the world use my scripts and have never contributed a penny toward the development of the scripts. And so some of my fellow CTPs are upset about that, so they have started a GoFundMe, and as of this morning, it's a whole whopping $530. So if you would like to donate to the scripts, you can go there. And thank you for coming.